saying I don't know how many more people are probably gonna come because it's a little bit early in the day, right? Still, for the
Yeah.
bulk of the community.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I try
all right.
and
We might just get
get.
started then. If you're, we might just get started. All right. So I guess then the House Judiciary Committee shall now come to order for the hearing of Inspector General edlank08. Mr. Inspector General, are you present and able to speak?
I am present and able to speak.
All right, thank you. I will now administer your oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, so help me God.
All right, thank you, Mr. Inspector General. You can take your seat. I will assume the floor for the initial questioning. So, first of all, Mr. Inspector General, do you agree with the statement, the procedures and scope of the Office of the Inspector General vary from Inspector General to Inspector General?
Yes, it depends on each Inspector General's mission, but we all have the same mission and scope by law, but of course it's individual by each Inspector General.
All right, thank you. You mentioned in your summarization statement that the Secret Service audit was prolonged to the 26th, following real-life obligations by the auditor. I wanted to ask what date the auditor returned or started work on the Secret Service audit following his real-life obligations.
Could you repeat the last part?
I wanted to ask what date the auditor returned or started work on the Secret Service audit following his real-life obligations.
There's something with your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Could you like do it one last time?
So he was okay. So it was prolonged to the 26th because of real-life obligations, right? So when did he start, or when did he come back following these
Uh,
obligations? Yeah.
he came back Saturday, on the 25th.
And was he working on the audit beforehand?
He was surveilling, but not actively writing the things he was supposed to write.
Okay, so if how was the report conducted if the audit was not being conducted due to real life obligations of the auditor?
Well, as the audit says, it lasted from 20th, meaning that both me and the auditor did conduct surveillance on the agency. We just didn't really look for anything specific until he came back.
But wasn't the report on Director Chris made on the 20th?
It was. That was from me.
Okay. Um, the former director was reported and fired on the same day that the audit started, despite it then being prolonged. Do you believe that the decision of the Office of the Inspector General to report and recommend charges on the director on the same day that the audit began was made in a timely and considered fashion?
No, I actually don't.
I see. For now, the floor is open to questioning from any other representatives.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to have the floor.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Inspector General for meeting with us today at such short notice. It was important to many members of the community that this hearing happened quickly, and the fact that we were able to do it, despite the fact that it is almost the end of the term, is quite good. So, moving on, Mr. Inspector General, I'll jump right into it. What was the reasoning behind auditing the Secret Service when you did? Was it planned, or was it requested by an individual or multiple individuals?
It was both the case on Director Chris and the audit was not on my initiative. Both of them came from the Department of Justice without me ever having an intent to investigate nor audit the agency.
Okay. And by the office or by the Department of Justice, do you mean the Attorney General himself?
Yes, the Attorney General himself contacted me and directly ordered me to conduct an audit on Secret Service, despite me having clearly said to him earlier that I did not want to conduct an audit on Secret Service, but another department.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Did the Attorney General tell you at all his reasoning behind wanting you to do so?
No, he gave me absolutely no reason.
Oh, okay. Um, well then, that's okay. I guess besides what he told you, I'm sure you have a lot of information besides what the Attorney General might have told you. Do you have any reason, any knowledge whatsoever behind why he would want an audit to be conducted?
No, I have no idea why he wanted it. I had told him about 15 days in advance that I would be doing or hoping to do a different audit, so this came out of nowhere.
Okay. Um, okay, moving on. In your audit report, um, that you gave to, I think you mentioned you gave to the Attorney General, the President, um, you recommended criminal charges. Is that correct?
I have to make a bit of clarification there. I did not
Okay, go ahead.
initiate anything on Chris's case. The Attorney General came to me asking for me to file charges on him. I had not originally intended to press any charges because I did not initially see what Chris had done as obstruction. Nothing of it was on my accord. As the report says, it wasn't actually by me, it was by the Attorney General.
I see. Well, that's very interesting. Um, so based on that fact, um, nevertheless, in your audit, I think it was the audit and not the report. Um, you said that you recommended criminal charges. Now, was that, do you believe, was that your free choice, or were you told to recommend charges, or like, you know,
Um,
can you explain?
no, I was not the one to do that. I was sort of ordered to by the FBI and the DOJ because they apparently were the ones who originally had this case on Chris. Then they went to me about it so I could release it first.
Okay. All right, I'm just trying to gather what you were saying. Um, okay. Uh, now, when you first encountered what you believe, okay, um, so you said that you don't consider what Director Chris did to be directly like abuse. Do you
No, not
consider
at
it
all.
to be interference?
No, it was not interference. It was never interference, and it never has been interference.
Hey, um, have that, all right. However, when you first encountered this, what you originally called interference in your report, um, did you attempt to continue with the audit following the former director's requests, or did you immediately make your report and submit it to the president and the attorney general?
Uh, so the director issued his reply to me and the policy on the same day I issued uh, the notice. That was 3 days before the Attorney General came to me and asked me to impose charges on him.
Okay, I want to get back to that then, because I'm a bit confused by what you mean by imposed charges. Of course, the FBI are the ones who um, kind of at least form the criminal charges, and they ask the DOJ, of course. Um, so I want you to try and answer as specifically as possible. Were you ordered to recommend charges in a report or indirectly by anyone, specifically the Attorney General?
Yes, if you give me a second, I'll find the exact thing he said. Uh, okay, so on the 20th of May, he told me, okay, we plan on charging Chris. Furthermore, I showed him his reply. No, I showed the director's reply and the policy he had implemented to the Attorney General. He replied back by saying this is actually illegal. It's abuse of office to hinder an OIG investigation, which Chris has done. After that, he says, and I quote, you're going to have to write a public report recommending charging Chris to the FBI."
I see. All right. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Let's see. All right. Moving back to the 20th and when everything was actually going on. Um, what document or guidelines were you following when you told the director that he didn't have a right to sit in on the interviews? Like, what was the reasoning behind that?
Could you elaborate?
Certainly. So I believe it was in the report. Oh, okay. So actually, why don't we go into this? I am looking at the OIG investigative report that you released uh, on the 20th. The first incident is dated the 17th. In under investigative details, and I believe you wrote this, you said the director had both in private and through the communication server of the Secret Service given his intention to interfere with the investigation by mandating a ban on any interviews that weren't done in his presence or knowledge. So, based on what you've told this committee, what I've just quoted in your report, was this your true belief or well, yeah, was this your true belief and opinion, or do you believe that you were made to say it by the Attorney General?
This was not my view at all. This, this entire case has been in the view of the Attorney General, who has been applying all these details and facts to me, who he kind of like micromanaged or used me as a chess piece to get that out because I possess the authority to make such recommendations.
See, um, and while this was going on, um, I guess, did you express any reservations to the Attorney General?
Sorry?
Did you express any concerns to him that you may have about his what you have called orders that he gave to you, seeing as you were conducting an audit based on the Secret Service um, in your official capacity as Inspector General of the Homeland Security. So, did you express to him that you were concerned of what it might look like if it came out that he was kind of ordering you to do all this?
Uh, no, if I'm gonna be straightforward, I feel like I was manipulated. Uh, I have, from looking back at it, seen that I did not do the right course of action when moving forward with this, as this was not my work, but it was done under my name.
All right, thank you. Um, well, I was going to ask if it was you who started the investigation into Chris, but you affirmed that it was not your decision to start anything. You were
No,
ordered
not
to
the
by the
audit,
Attorney General.
not the audit, not the investigation, nothing.
Give me a few moments. Okay. Right. Would you describe the Attorney General's actions as interference in your office?
No,
Okay.
nothing that he done was ever obstruction. It never even became that. So even if it was like attempted obstruction, it wasn't.
Oh, I apologize. I think you misunderstood me. I
Also,
was referring to the Attorney General. In your opinion, do you think the Attorney General's actions constituted at least interference within your office?
well, by kind of managing and commanding me to do all these things, uh, it's, I suppose, but that's again not up to me to decide.
If I may, Ed,
Yeah, go
my
on.
my client says he conferred in me that he did feel pressured at times.
Yeah, it's worth noting
Thank you,
that,
counsel.
especially on the Chris case, I was like sort of pressured into admitting in sort of way that it was obstruction by both the FBI and the AG. They both came to me and said, "Hey, do you consider this obstruction?"
Okay, thank you, Mr. Inspector General. Um, Now, you've obviously mentioned the Attorney General. Was there anyone else that you believe, in the same vein as the Attorney General, was, if not ordering, at least trying to coerce you into a certain path, certain actions regarding the audit and the investigation?
Uh, may- could you repeat the question?
So you've mentioned that you believe you were manipulated by the Attorney General. I think, based on your testimony, it's fair to call it at least interference or influence. Do you believe that there was any influence from any other individual in the same way, besides the Attorney General?
Could I have a moment with my counsel?
Of course, go ahead.
Thank you. Representative, is it all right if I answer that question for my dearest IG?
Lead counsel.
So, the scope of your question, the main manipulation that the IG felt was indeed from the AG. However, he did receive communication from the FBI, but this was after he'd spoken to the Attorney General, and the timelines around that are quite blurry in terms of the investigation and what occurred.
I see. Okay, thank you very much, counsel. Um, all right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Inspector General. Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor.
Okay, Mr. Inspector General, following all of that, could we ask you to provide any screenshots, either of anything you could consider the AG committing manipulative acts or the FBI? You can provide them into the judiciary channel if you wish. You have access.
Moment with my counsel, please.
No problem.
Chairman.
Yes.
How soon do you want these screenshots?
We can wait. We understand that it can take a while to fetch from different dates and scroll up, so
Do you want them right now for this hearing? Because it'd be preferable if we could go away after this hearing and come back to you with like these screenshots compiled.
sure, that works.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, I don't have any further line of questioning. I believe Representative Ray asked all the possible paths. I was going to ask about contradictions in the report, but you've said that the AG has completely influenced you as, and I quote, as a chess piece in your writing of the report and initial investigation of Secret Service. So, Representative Ray, do you have any further questioning on this?
I would like to have the floor once again, Mr.
All
Chair.
right, you can go ahead.
Now, Mr. Inspector General, I won't pretend that this isn't quite a shocking revelation. Of course, everything will depend on the screenshots and evidence you provide. However, if we take what you said at face value, of course it raises questions about the Attorney General, but certainly, I think no offense, but I think it raises questions about your, at least, level of ability to handle perhaps undue influence or I guess undue
Representative,
influence in your office. Yes.
may I respond to that?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
I can understand the angle you're trying to push there, but I think that is unfair. Ed is this is his first nominated position, right, to Inspector General. Inspector General, I think we know in this community, is a hard office. A lot of people in the community do not want the OIG to exist. It is a role that is deeply hard to fill, and at the end of the day, the Inspector General was just doing his job. He was just following orders. He was following the code, and sure, he's been influenced here, and one could say manipulated. I will leave that up to you. But the question, I would say, really lies with those above him.
Thank you, Counsel. Well, that may be so. I certainly just want to make a note that this committee will be looking at each side, and certainly, Mr. Inspector General, while I understand the situation you may have been placed in, I want you to be aware that we may want to look into any failures in your office further. However, the fact that you've chosen to accept our invite to speak on everything you've spoken about speaks well of you so far. So thank you for that. Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor.
Thank you, Representative. I did not know why I just jumped out of my seat. All right. Oh, apologies, I was muted. All right, seeing as we both have no more questions for you, I believe we can adjourn this.
Mr. Chairman, one moment.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Representative.
I apologize. Perhaps we should ask the Inspector General if he has any closing remarks or statement.
Oh, yes, thank you. Mr. Inspector General, do you have any closing remarks or statements?
I would just like to make it clear that From my perspective, I do believe the audit would have been the same if Chris was not fired. The only real change was that the only negative answer we got maybe would have been positive instead of this negative.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Inspector General. With that, I hereby close it. I hereby adjourn this hearing.